get started.
For me, I say that, are you saying? Or Anna?
Either.
Okay.
And we are live now.
Tracy, I don't have permission to record.
Oh, let me change that.
And I don't see the timer, so when we've hit 30 seconds, Anne, if you want to say that.
Okay.
You should have permission now.
Okay, do I record to my computer then, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. My Google sign-in just bumped me out of
I can take a look.
of the Zoom call.
Okay. All right, everyone. Before we get started on this meeting, we want to give a chance for our interpreters to let people know who need interpretation how to use that feature. So we're going to take a moment just for them to read the slide that's showing right now. Okay, we can move on to the next slide. Okay, if you are an English speaker and you are signed into this Zoom meeting, we ask that you leave the Zoom meeting and you go to the YouTube live, which can be found on this website right here, so that we can serve our students and families who need interpretation. Thank you. Then Anne, if you want to introduce our guest, we can get started from there.
All right. I'm very happy to introduce Anna Scharfenaker, and she is an admissions counselor from California College of the Arts in Oakland, California. And she's going to do a presentation with us on applying to art colleges. So Anna, thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. I'm Anna, I'm the senior admissions counselor at California College of the Arts, also known as CCA. So I'm gonna take just a quick minute to introduce CCA so that you kind of have an idea about what going to an art school is like, and then jump in to the application process. So just a quick kind of synopsis of CCA. We are an art and design school located in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we have our main campus in San Francisco and also our historic campus over in Oakland. We were originally established in 1907, so that's really allowed us to flourish and be a part of the art making community in the Bay. We have a variety of different programs, and so you can see them listed here. And so that's one thing to think about if you are interested in art and design. Going to an art school may be a great opportunity for you as a way to really specialize and dive into your areas of interest. One thing to know is that at CCA, we do believe in having an interdisciplinary practice, which means that no matter what you decide to major in, you are really more than welcome to, and actually it's written into our curriculum for you to take classes outside of your major. So for example, if you're interested in painting but want to take classes in ceramics and fashion design, you're more than welcome to do so. And then another thing to know is that coming to an art school, you're immediately able to start that making practice. So at CCA, not only would you be taking classes in your major, say starting in graphic design 1, but also trying a bunch of different varieties of making. So everything from working in our wood shop, trying out video and film, painting, printmaking, Photoshop, collage, and then drawing as ways of course, to learn about working visually and what that is like. And so what is life like at CCA? We are a small school, a small private nonprofit with about 1,500 undergraduate students. So a very small, intimate experience with an average 8-to-1 student to faculty ratio. So really being able to have that mentorship experience with your faculty members and getting to really know them and start that networking process. One thing that's amazing about coming to CCA is that your teachers are not only teaching, they're also working in the fields. So you're learning animation from animators, you're learning, fashion from designers. And then hopping into the real meat of this presentation is thinking about, all right, how do you apply to an art school? Because it is a little different than applying to a traditional, kind of big university. So really, I wanted to take the moment to break down the two main elements that are a little bit different. So just like any other college, you'd be sending in, your transcripts, your letter of rec, all of that. But the two main things that kind of distinguish applying to an art school as something different than a traditional application would be the personal essay or artist statement, and then your portfolio. So first, I want to talk about the artist statement. And one of the main things I'll say is that the artist statement is all about you and really learning about how your story connects to your art making practice. So going a little deeper into it, what is it? Number one, your artist statement is going to be an introduction to your art. So what does it look like? How is it made? What is it about? And how do you actually make it? So really breaking down the fundamentals about what art you're making at the time. It also can be thought of as a written, representation or kind of narrative about your art. And it's a great opportunity to reflect on what art you've been making. So thinking about, oh, wait, what have I been thinking about? What is this process that I've been going through? And what does it mean to me? Okay, so now that you have an idea of what an artist statement is, how do I start? Well, number one, I would say take a deep breath and know that there's no wrong answers. It's literally just you talking to the college that you're applying to and telling them about yourself. So there's no wrong answers, which is great. Number two, I recommend looking at your artwork. Instead of just sitting in front of the computer and trying to remember everything you've been making recently, actually pull out your art pieces and take a peek and see if you see any similarities or any ideas that you've been thinking about throughout your pieces. I also recommend, talking to a friend or family member. This is a great way by starting just a conversation. It may feel more natural to answer questions about, oh, well, I can tell you what my artwork is about. What are you thinking? And then after having those conversations, see if any of the things you said really stand out to you. And then, of course, breaking down to kind of three big questions. What is it? So is it a landscape? Is it a figure? How is it made? Is it a painting? Is it a sculpture? Is it, a film? Why did you make it? So what really inspired you? So thinking about, maybe you're saying my work is a landscape painting, and the reason I made it is because I really value the environment and I want people to really look at the landscape and the natural world and feel kind of as impacted as I do. So that's a great kind of starting point example. And then the last thing I would say is once you've written your artist statement, read it while having your art in front of you. So still going back to having your artist statement and your essay reflect the art you're making. So what about college, right? So the fact that we're talking here about how your artist statement is part of your art college application. So I would say, of course, don't forget who you're writing to. So connect what you've talked about, your art practice, connect to the personal values of the school. So do that moment to do the research. Look at each school and think about what are their values, what are opportunities that they provide, are there facilities that you're excited by, are there faculty members that you want to work with? So really thinking about how you can connect your story about how you approach making art to then the college you want to apply to and why you feel like those things come together. A great resource I recommend checking out is acad.org, and this is a great resource to look at all varieties of different art schools in the US. That may be a great way to kind of start doing your research. And then lastly, thinking about how, again, that partnership between your artist statement, which is like the written portion of your application, right? It's your essay. And then the next big component is that portfolio, which is what we were just talking about. And so what is your portfolio? So your portfolio is going to be a certain number of images that show the art that you've been making recently. That's really what it is. You want to show the college that you're applying to what your art is like and what you've been thinking about. And that can be addressed in a couple different ways. Number one is we want to know your story. So really, how does the person that you are, your unique experience, your history, your relationships with your family and friends, how does that play into your art? and your art making practice. So this is an example of a student that currently goes to CCA, and her name is Itzel, and her work is really thinking about her identity as a Mexican American, especially in her relationship to trying to connect with her culture and her heritage, and how she sometimes feels in conflict with that. And so again, this is a great way to see how her story was really at the core of the art that she's making. Another way to approach it is to think about your brand. So this is another CCA student. This is Louis, and he was really thinking about his love of graphic design and how that can also be influenced by what he is passionate about. And for him, he's really passionate about ocean conservation and looking at specifically kind of our relationship with sharks and how we can have a sustainable kind of lifestyle to help support the shark populations. So not only is this kind of an example of his graphic design skill, but again, really getting to know him. And then don't be afraid to really show your personality. You can see in these pieces, they have humor in them, they have whimsy. And because we really want to get to know you through your art portfolio, a great way to do that is to include, kind of your fun side. We want to know what your personality is. And so a lot of times that can come through your artwork too. And then don't be afraid to experiment. So think about how can you try new things and challenge yourself. So art doesn't always have to be, putting pen to paper. This is an example. Enya, she ended up painting on some cement blocks that she found in her backyard. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, she wanted to try something new, but that was also just the materials that she had around her. And so she said, why not? Why does painting have to be on canvas? And the other thing too is it's great to try working with new materials and see how that can also push you conceptually and the stories that you're telling. So for example, Enya was really thinking about her experience and her family and how, half of her family is here in America and the other half is in Cuba. And so for her, this idea of working with stone and cement really also connected her to this idea of trying to feel grounded and having them be like these heavy pieces when she was thinking about her kind of heavy relationship with her family. So really also thinking about how the materials that you're using could contribute to the stories that you're telling and vice versa. So don't be afraid to try something new and see where it takes you. Maybe it's something you totally didn't expect, and it's a great kind of growing opportunity. The other aspect of the portfolio is a lot of times our colleges are more than excited to check out what we would call your process work. And so this is going to be able to see how exactly what it sounds like, what your process is through making. So you can see here the final piece, some images of the student actually assembling the sculpture, and then additionally you can see the very beginning sketches and ideas. So again, because the portfolio is about telling us who you are through your art making practice, a great way to do that is for us to see your art making journey and your kind of thinking and development process. Another example of process work that we are more excited that we are also excited to take a peek at would be your sketchbook. A lot of times students have a sketchbook that they really work on regularly, and it's a great way to kind of just, process your daily lives. And again, a lot of times your sketchbook is really raw and exciting, and it's another way for us to really get to know you and your personality. So this is a great way, A, for us to really get to continue to see how you work as an artist, and B, if you're kind of intimidated putting together a large portfolio, this is a great way to kind of break it down. Each one of these can be an aspect of your portfolio to help kind of bulk it out if that's something you're worried about. And then additionally, thinking about presentation. So how do you take photos of your work is something that's so important. So not only is it the work itself, but also the idea that, we live in a digital age, right? So I'm not going to be able to look at your paintings or your sculpture in person when I review your application. So instead, I'm going to have to look at it, digitally. And so taking that time to really represent your artwork well is so important. You'd be surprised how many times as someone from admissions that reviews applications, I see images that are blurry and out of focus or pixelated or have, are poorly lit. And even if the art piece is really cool, if I can't tell what's going on, then I can't tell how cool it is. So taking that moment to say, I'm going to use good lighting, maybe that really yellow lamp in the living room is not necessarily the way to go. So instead, I'm going to wait and use natural lighting, for example. I'm going to make sure that, you can see here, the sculpture was really nicely documented. It's literally just a white piece of butcher block paper they put down on the table. Or maybe if you want to borrow a sheet from your family and hang that behind your sculpture, that's a great idea. That being said, you don't have to have a fancy digital camera. Most of you probably have phones with cameras on it, and that technology has really evolved. And so if you have a phone and you want to use that to take your photos, you're more than welcome to. The most important thing is just to make sure that it clearly illustrates exactly what's going on in your art making practice. Sorry, scrolling ahead. So here I wanted to show some examples of how students at CCA have kind of grown in their art practice as kind of building a portfolio. So this here is Esther. So Esther studied illustration at CCA, and I think she's a great example of having an interdisciplinary focus. So this, of course, is from work she did while at CCA, but it's a way to kind of put all of these things I've talked about together. So number one, Esther wasn't afraid to experiment, try different things. She was interested in illustration, but she also took classes in textiles and in furniture design. And so again, thinking about how the different materials that you're using can tell your story. You also can see here, obviously, they're really cleanly and beautifully documented, so you can really understand exactly what's going on. So that's something that's, of course, really important. And then lastly, again, it really taps into that story element. And so Esther, she's really interested in looking at her family and her heritage. Esther is Assyrian, and so really looking at their history of being refugees and genocide, and how her work was thinking about really building a home for her family in her art making practice. And so that's what kind of drove her interest in furniture and textiles, which relates a lot more to kind of the domestic space. So this is a great example, I would say, of kind of how all of those kind of interests and aspects of portfolio building come together. And then to kind of see the rest of what art school application looks like, I here put our CCA application requirements, and so you can see how it all comes together. So number one is going to be the application itself. So we have our own application, but we also happen to accept the Common App. Most art and design schools also are on the Common App, so whichever is easy for you. If you haven't heard of what the Common App is, essentially it is one form that you can fill out and then send to multiple colleges if you're planning on applying to a bunch of different schools. Then it's going to be your official transcripts. Just like any other college, we require your official high school transcripts. CCA does not require SAT or ACT scores. We happen to be test optional. Other colleges may or may not be test optional, but that's something, of course, to think about. A letter of recommendation from a teacher. So this is going to be really looking at how have you grown as a student over the years? Your letter of rec does not have to be necessarily from an art teacher, though if you have one that you're close to that can talk about kind of how you've grown as an artist, that's great. But also, you may love math, and so you're really close to your math teacher and you feel like you have a good connection with them. Anyone that you are welcome to choose from. And then there's those two elements that I talked about before. So that's that personal essay artist statement. So telling us who you are and how that's related to your art making practice. And then the portfolio, which gives you the visual examples of your art making practice. So you can see here, this is kind of the overall bundle of an art school application. It's fairly approachable and easy to break down, but I wanted to really highlight what it's like, especially with those two kind of unique elements of the artist statement and the portfolio, so that feels a little bit more approachable. And then lastly, just some kind of opportunities. I wanted to point out that CCA, along with the majority of other art and design schools, happen to participate in National Portfolio Day, which is a great opportunity if you haven't heard of it. National Portfolio Day is an organization that works together with colleges from around the world that have art and design programs and brings all these colleges together to give you feedback on your portfolios for free. So if you haven't heard about it before, it's awesome. You get colleges from California, like myself, to Kansas, to Canada, all in one place. And this year they're all virtual, which makes it even more accessible. So they're happening just about every weekend from now all the way through January. So I would definitely check out their website and see what events are coming up. One thing that's nice is because they're virtual, you're able to join any event any day that is easy and accessible for you. And this is a great way to get feedback on that portfolio. So we just broke down how to put together a portfolio. And then once you have a rough draft, you can go to this event and say, hey, is this what you're looking for? Give me some feedback and see, maybe, the colleges say you're on the perfect track. We just want you to tweak these few things. And it's a great way for you to know that you're kind of ready to go. Or you get some feedback where you realize, oh, these colleges are actually looking for something a little bit different. And so I can build a few more pieces and then feel more confident. And this is open to you at any stage of your high school experience. So even if you're just kind of starting to step into that art school application process and you're a little nervous, don't worry. We are literally here to support you and to help you grow. And that's what we're excited to do. So everyone is friendly and excited to meet you. And then lastly, I just wanted to throw up, since we have only about 6 minutes left, here is our contact information. So if you're interested in learning more about CCA, feel free to give us a call, send us a text, send us an email. You're welcome to mention my name, Anna, and say that I sent you. And then also we do have our Instagram page that you can see at the bottom. It's at CCA_UG_admissions. CCA has a variety of different workshops that we've been hosting virtually, everything from, like we talked about today, how to put together a portfolio and an artist statement, going a little bit more in depth into those different things and showing even more student examples. We also have workshops about financial literacy, so talking about the scholarship process and different types of scholarship, financial aid, and how do you become eligible. We have guided virtual campus tours with current students, along with opportunities to make appointments to meet one-on-one with either myself or my colleagues, ask us questions about our application, our school, and also receive feedback one-on-one on your portfolio. So with that, we have 5 more minutes. I wanted to give us some time if there are any questions that came through. So I will leave my contact up just a little bit longer so people can write that down or screenshot it if necessary.
Anna, I've been following the chat on the YouTube live stream, and I don't have any questions yet, but I was wondering if you wouldn't mind taking a minute to talk about how work in the portfolio, is it evaluated differently if it comes out of a class versus what a student has created on their own? Because I know not all students are getting the art classes that they're wanting to, and I was wondering if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, that is an awesome question. So thank you for pulling that, for asking that. So there's a couple ways I want to kind of answer that. Number one, your art portfolio is about showing authentically where you're at. So whatever that means, you're totally fine and welcome to apply as always. Especially for CCA, kind of like I showed before, it's really that story element, getting to know you and your passion and your love from art and where it comes from. If anything, as far as questions about kind of that technical skill that you normally would kind of focus on in an art class, we can teach you that technical skill when you come to CCA. That's kind of why you go to school, is to learn. One thing I kind of say is we can teach you how to draw, but not how to think. So that is why really emphasizing that storytelling and personality piece, I think, is so important, because that's going to really make you stand out more than anything. Additionally, CCA's portfolio is wide open. And one of the reasons for that is because we know that students are coming to us from all different experience levels, and we want to give them the freedom to show us where they're at. So that being said, some schools have more specific requirements that they're looking for. So they may be looking for like technical work that shows like figure drawing or still lifes or observational kind of sketches. And that is going to be adding to kind of that technical element. But at CCA, we don't have those requirements because we know not everyone has access to that. That being said, if you have technical work you want to show, you're welcome to do so. But one thing I say is, you know, I don't necessarily get your personality from the beautiful bowl of fruit. So that's one thing to think about, is really having that kind of artistic voice be the most forward aspect of your portfolio.
All right, very good. Thank you. Let me give the chat one more check.
Sure.
And I'm not seeing any questions popping up on YouTube or in our Zoom chat. So I think you've covered the bases really nicely for us.
Okay, cool. And then one thing I'll just add to that, kind of thinking about, again, telling that story of passion. And even if you don't necessarily have access to a lot of art classes, I think that's a great place also to talk in your personal essay and artist statement, to talk about how you are still driven to practice art and design, even though you haven't had access necessarily to more formal training, and how that's something you're looking forward to. And so I think kind of having that explanation and talking about your love and passion there kind of all can come together. So seeing it in the portfolio and in the essay, again, I always think of those as two kind of partnerships when it comes to that application, so that when I look at it, I want to open it up and say, oh, I totally understand who Sarah is. I can see where she's coming from. I can see her personality. I can see that she's someone that can grow at CCA and that she's challenging herself and is someone unique that we don't currently have in our community. And therefore, I want to admit her, and I'm excited for her to join CCA. So that's kind of a approach to start to think about putting together your application and how it all talks to each other.
All right, wonderful. Terrific. Okay. Well, you filled our hour beautifully with lots of great, helpful information. Thank you so much. And we appreciate having your contact information for any follow-up concerns or questions or clarifications that we might need. So thank you so much for joining us. And for everyone watching, thank you for tuning in. And we appreciate your time with us and sharing your expertise very much.
Thank you so much. One last thing, I did want to just throw a link in the chat for anyone in Zoom, or if you want to copy that too to YouTube. It's a link if students would like to be added to our mailing list and learn more. You'll just click that and then click the little blue button that says register for event, and then you'll get updates about our upcoming workshops and events. So with that, my name's Anna. I'm from California College of the Arts, and it's so nice to meet all of you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Anna.
All right, bye.